Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys making some time to hang out with me a little bit and watch the video. Really appreciate that. And guys, today we're going to be talking about some casting tips. I want to talk about some things you can do to avoid backlashing and avoid getting those fluffs. There's quite a few different things that you can do. And like I said, depending upon the lure that you're throwing, depending upon the wind, you're going to have a little bit more difficult time. But I've got about a half a dozen things here that I'm going to sort of show you that you can quickly do to really cut down the amount of birds' nests and all that type of stuff you get in your fishing. So we're going to go over that in today's video. Also, guys, if you're happening to if you're out looking right now for some new rod and reels, as far as talking about casting here in today's video, Tackle Warehouse has got everything you need. They've got some great sales on rods and reels right now. I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description, and I'll put the rod and reel category in the description of the video. If you guys would like to use that link to get some good deals on it and support the channel at the same time, a big round of thanks from me and my family here. Really appreciate that. Okay guys, let's get into this. We're going to talk about all the different things that you can do here to help out to get, eliminate birds' nests. So we're going to start out from, the first thing that you can do all the way up to the last thing you can do. So the first thing that you can do to eliminate it, a lot of it has to do with how you put the line on your reel. And we're talking about a bait caster here. As you can see right I've got here, take a look at the distance between the spool, the outside of the spool, and my line. You can see I've got probably about 1/8 of an inch of a gap right there. You can see right there, about 1/8 of an inch gap. Now, this is the ideal type of amount of line that you want to put on your reel. You don't want to fill it all the way full, because that really backlashes a lot. If you really fill it completely full, it makes it more difficult to control the backlash. If you put it less than 1/8 of an inch, you're going to lose your casting distance. So about 1/8 of an inch is perfect. And also, when you adjust your your tension here on your reel, you want to adjust it to where when you push it down, your lure falls about like that, about that speed there. Just hold your rod out like there, adjust your tension until your bait falls just about like that. It's going to be about the perfect amount of tension on it. Now, the next thing you can do, a lot of it has to do with the casting. Now, for me, probably when I do get a bird's nest or a backlash, it's usually the first or second cast of the morning. That's because when I get out there, I'm trying to make these, long casts right off the bat. Here's a tip that will help you from backlashing right off the bat when you get out there, because a lot of times, it's cold, maybe the line's stiff, maybe your gears are a little bit stiff. There's some things that are a little bit different with casting until you get warmed up. But make 4 or 5 casts before you make your initial cast, and make them gently. Like, start out, make a nice gentle cast like there, and try to cast the bait out there maybe 10 foot. The next cast, a little bit harder out there, cast it out there maybe 20 foot. But make 3 or 4 casts real gentle and slow like that to get a feel for the tension that you have on there. And then after you get a feel for that, go ahead and make the longest cast that you want to. But you really need to get a feel for the tension control that you have set on there, and also the tension control works in correlation with your line diameter. Different sizes of line cast a little bit differently. So say, for example, if you got 25-pound test line on, it's going to cast different in terms of the tension on it than you have like 10-pound test line. And it's going to be cast different if you have braid versus fluorocarbon versus mono. It's going to cast different based upon the weight of the lure that you're using. So just start out there just nice and gentle like that until you get used to it. It's going to be a really big help with that. The next thing you can do, guys, is you really have to get comfortable thumbing, your reel spool there. Now, the thumbing, a lot of it has to do with the type of reel that you have, because some reels are a little bit more user-friendly than others. Some of them require a little bit more, manipulation on the part of the angler. But everything's different on this. So one of the things that you want to do that's going to help is when you cast out there, tend to make your cast and put a little bit more pressure on the thumbs, on the spool of the reel until you get used to it. Now, once you get used to it, you can cast it as hard as you want with the least amount of tension once you get a feel for how far you can go with that. Consequently, the same thing, guys, is when your lure's hitting the water, don't just cast it out there and just let it hit the water. You want to slow it down with your thumb slowly so it hits the water gently and it doesn't have an overrun, once it does hit the water. But those are just some big things with it, guys. Main thing with that is, like I said, it's just practicing with it. You're going to get bird's nests. Bird's nests are an inevitable part of fishing with a bait cast outfit. I'm really surprised that there hasn't been a company that has made a bait backlash free reel, like some type of a spin cast reel where you could just cast it as hard as you want and not put any tension on it, and it would go perfect. But I'm not aware of any of them that are out there like that. Another thing with that is once you learn how to thumb the tension a little bit better, it really helps with your casting accuracy and your quiet presentation, because when you get really good at thumbing a spool on there, you can actually make that lure land super, super quiet, when it hits the water, which helps sometimes. And another thing with that is in terms of backlashing, the type of cast that you make has a lot to do with it, because if you're pitching and flipping, that's going to be one type of presentation. An overhand cast is going to be another. Sidearm cast is going to be another. Backhand cast is going to be a little bit different. All of it requires a different pressure that you put on your thumb bar. But the main thing, guys, is just get comfortable with your equipment. Like I said, every bait cast reel is different. You've got to get a feel for it. And when you do change your line test and your lure weight, be careful at first, because if you've been using like a 1/2 ounce lure, then you go down to a 1/4 ounce lure and you try to cast with the same type of thumb pressure and the same type of force on your cast, you're going to backlash. So make sure anytime you change your line size or your lure size that you're going to, have some type of an adjustment there. And also take the wind into consideration. Obviously, the most difficult cast to make with a bait caster is into the wind. If you try to get too much distance into the wind, you're always going to backlash. So just spend a lot of time, getting familiar with all those elements there, and it's going to help out a lot. So anyway, guys, hope it helps you guys avoid getting some gnarly messed up bird's nests. Another thing with that, I will leave you with one more final tip, guys. If you're using fluorocarbon line on your bait caster and you get a bad backlash where you're down there picking it out like that and you're starting to strip it and you're picking it hard like that, don't use that line anymore in a serious situation, because you have damaged it. If you get a really bad backlash and you're trying to pick it out, don't ever use it again in a tournament. You're going to have to re-spool, because the tension and the heat that comes on there when you're doing that, it's going to weaken the line and it will break a lot easier. So if you're just fun fishing, no big deal. But if you get a really, really bad bird's nest, just put your outfit down, either re-spool it or get another outfit that hasn't been backlashed. It's going to definitely save you from breaking off. So hope it helps out. We'll talk later.